Suffice it to say that the most obvious and easy savings come precisely in the area of conservation, and the first 15 years of reaching that target, going down that 2% a year, should be remarkably easy for us. That set of measures that the American people, according to Gallup, now are ready to endorse, about 30-mile-per-gallon cars and compact fluorescent bulbs and some kind of surcharge if you use electricity past a certain point, those get us way into this problem without having to have any new technology or any new set of ideas. How precisely we structure it in terms of cap and trade, auction and trade, carbon tax, again, is open to question, but there's now enough data beginning to emerge to allow us to try to make sure that when that deal's cut, it's done in a transparent way that really makes it happen when we put these things into effect, okay? That we've got some data from Europe, for instance, about how not to structure things to make sure that it actually works. Now, if all this happens, the outcome is maybe pretty neat. The force of economic gravity begins to work the right way instead of the wrong way. It makes it easier to do all the things that we know we should be doing instead of harder to do all the things that we know we should be doing. And it's possible that this transition away from fossil fuel really does become the great economic driver in this century for our country and for the world. It's hard to think of any other sort of technology on the horizon that offers that kind of possibility for innovation, for rapid deployment, for universal need. It could be kind of neat, but that's not to underscore the fact that it's also going to be difficult. And we shouldn't pretend that it isn't going to be difficult. What we're going to have to do is take away the magic fuel that's underwritten our economy for 3 centuries. Coal and oil and gas, spectacular stuff. They're easy to get at. You scrape off a couple of feet of soil, you put a pipe in the ground and it comes bubbling out. They're easy to transport. They're absolutely filled with BTUs, and I mean, it's amazing stuff. And so it's hard to predict what an economy will look like that no longer depends on those. My guesses, and they're in this new book of mine, Deep Economy, are that it may well turn out to be an economy that looks substantially different, that focuses more on, for at least certain things, more localized economies, that's more interested in shortening supply lines than in lengthening them, that's focused on durability instead of disposability. I think that there are probably classes of consumer items that will become increasingly unlikely. The idea that it's a good practice to ship water around the world in plastic bottles, I think, will diminish as we go forward. But the point is that there will be, if we do things right, enormous possibility for markets to do their thing and for innovation to flourish. That's the good possibility. The bad possibility is that we break down into a world and a country of recriminations as we make too slow progress about this. We can already see this beginning to happen a little bit internationally. The fact that people were rioting in Mexico City a 2 or 3 weeks ago because the price of corn had risen because of our ethanol, here's my prediction, a technology that turns out not to be such a good idea is corn into ethanol. If for no other reason, then you can feed a person for a year on the amount of corn that fills your SUV tank one time, okay? That kind of recrimination is going to be increasingly possible internationally as the rest of the world begins to focus on the fact that it's primarily us that has driven the world to the brink of this ecological peril, and they're not going to take kindly to the idea that we're going to continue to just keep driving on blithely as before. And there's also possibility for all kinds of domestic recrimination, with business, with politics, with everything else going forward. As people begin, for instance, to focus on why it was that we wasted 10 years in the 1990s and whatever else. This is a change of such magnitude that its shocks will echo in unpredictable ways. And the best hope going forward is to try to engage the fight in real solidarity between business and the environmental, NGO, larger civil society community, between business and faith groups, between business and all the other people who have real stakes. Sometimes you hear people talk about radical environmentalists and how they're the problem, you know, and how we have to avoid them and things. That's not the problem here. The problem here, if it happens, will be environmentalism that isn't radical enough, that does not go to the root of this problem, that waves its hands and makes sort of concerned gestures in the direction of the planet's plight, but doesn't do the serious, down-in-the-basement work of rearranging our fundamentals of our economy so that we can actually take care of this issue. And you know what? All the kind of hand-waving and things, I mean, we'll be able to tell whether we're making progress or not. There is an instrument on the side of Mauna Loa in Hawaii that records every hour of every day what the atmospheric concentration of carbon dioxide is. And it won't do any good if we all are able to put in our annual reports and our fundraising letters and everything else all the good things that we're doing if that number on that machine on the edge of Mauna Loa keeps going up and up and up. It's only if it starts going down and down and down and pretty quickly down that we have some hope of dealing with the situation that we're in. The stakes are very high. This is the only civilization-scale challenge that human beings have ever faced, okay? And it's a time test, and we have to get it right. I drove down from Vermont today, just in this sort of glorious first flush of spring. The maples beginning to bud out and the red up on the tips of the trees, you know, and flowers starting to pop, and everything is beautiful as it has been every year that we've been alive and every year that human beings have been alive, back as far as we can go. And the question is, the deep question is whether we can figure out how to keep that going another 50 and 100 years. And it's not at all clear that we can. And the answer depends very much on the work that people in this room do in the next few years. Thank you.